Here's a look at the Wizzard mower. It's a 1995 Wizzard from Western Auto, and I converted it in '96 to radio control, and this is 2018 and it still mows my yard, so it's worked out really well. Recently I upgraded to a 5-channel Spectrum radio. Before I was using a 3-channel with a key fob, and that worked out really well, but now I have all of the controls on one transmitter, no need for a key fob, and I have full control and full range, so it was definitely worth the conversion to this 5-channel. The system itself is actually really simple. There was a lot of thought that went into it, so I'm just going to take things one channel at a time and show you how it operates, and then if you have any questions you can send me an email and I'll be glad to answer them if I can. To start with, there are 3 lights up on the dash there. There's an amber light, a green light, and a red light, and then of course there's a big amber light, and then on the side I have some red lights. And the red lights and the big amber light was put on to make note of the fact that there's no steering wheel on this mower and there's no seat on this mower. So this mower has not been ridden since 1996 when it was converted. I took the steering wheel and the seat off because people thought I'd fell off of the mower and offered to go chase it for me, till they realized I was holding a radio in my hand. But since adding the lights and removing the seat and steering wheel, I haven't had that issue any longer. So I'm going to go ahead and activate the system by first turning on the transmitter. And once it powers up, I'm going to go ahead and turn the key on. And you notice I turned the key on, and I have 2 lights on the dashboard that are lit now. A green light in the center, and left would be the red light. Now anytime that red light's on, that simply means that the mower is not going to run. So if it were running, it would have shut off, and it will not start until I do a manual reset of the e-stop. The e-stop is just an emergency stop. So anytime I need to shut down the mower, I can apply emergency stop and it will shut down. This knob over here does a couple of things. To move it up would turn on the e-stop. To move it down once, like that, turns off the e-stop. So now the mower would start and run. The steering is done via the wheel conventionally, so and it's proportional, meaning that if I turn, we'll look up front there, if I turn the wheel a little bit, then I get a little bit of response from the tires. If I turn the wheel a lot, then I get a lot of response from the tires. So I can stop anywhere in between, left and right. So as soon as I stop turning the wheel, then the wheels will stop moving. So the steering is very responsive. The throttle is a trigger, forward is brake, and pulling it back applies the throttle. Also, this is set up so that if you look down, you'll see right below the oil filter is the throttle cable. That throttle cable is hooked to that actuator, along with the actuator being hooked to the clutch and brake pedal. So if I apply brake, I'm simply pushing the transmitter stick forward, and to come back to apply throttle and to engage the mower for it to move, I'm simply pulling on the trigger. So pulling the trigger applies the throttle, pushing the trigger forward returns the engine back to idle and applies the brake. So braking and throttle acceleration is all really simple and done with one actuator. Let's look at deck control. Deck control is done with one button on the transmitter, which is this one here, and if I push it down, it's going to lower the deck, and it's going to engage the blades, and it's also going to turn on the flashing lights. Anytime the deck is running or the blades are engaged, those lights will be flashing. So to pull the deck up and disengage the blades, I simply pull the button up, and now you can see the deck is coming up and the blades are disengaged and the lights are out. Shifting of the gears, that's going to be done with this knob. There's a knob here that I can turn, and left and right, and turning the knob all the way to the back is reverse, and you hear the beep. This beep is a backup alarm that I actually have disabled right now. I've pulled the fuse so that it's not real loud, because it is rather loud. It sounds like a big dump truck backing up. I have 6 forward gears, and I can choose any one of those 6 gears by simply turning the knob. The next control would be the emergency shutoff, and that's simply by pushing this button here up one time. You see the red light come on, so whenever the red light's on, that means the mower will not start. The engine will crank over if I tried to start it, but it would not run. And to reset that, all I do is push that down one time, and you see that it's back in position for running. And there's no faults right now, so therefore it would run. If I were to lose connection between the transmitter and the receiver, if they quit talking, then the mower will automatically shut down, and I can demonstrate that by turning off the transmitter. So if I just reach down and turn the transmitter off, then you're going to see the red light's going to come on. Also, the gear shift moved slightly. Whenever I turn the system back on, the gear shift is going to move, but the red light is going to stay on, and therefore the mower is not going to start until I do a manual reset, which would be simply that. So now the mower would start. Starting is done by pushing this button here, and there's about a 2-second delay, and the reason for the delay is so that if I'm mowing and I accidentally hit the start button, then unless I hold it for 2 seconds, it's not going to try to start. So whenever I'm going to go ahead and put the mower into a emergency shut off, which would be there. You see the red light on the dash. So with that red light on, then the mower would automatically shut down. Also, you'll see an amber light on the dash, and the amber light is simply letting me know that power is being sent to the starter and to the choke. So it's an automatic choke when I go to start. So I'm going to push the button to start the mower. You can see that it cranks over, but it does not start. So if I do a reset on the e-stop, now if I try to start it, we get an instant start. So that's one of the features of it. And also, if I start the mower, and let's say I did lose radio, so let me go ahead and start it. We're going to shut down the radio, and there you can see the mower immediately shut down. And again, if I turn the transmitter back on and try to start the mower without doing the reset, it is not going to start. I do the reset, and it's ready to go. Now I can also control the starting function with the key, so I can start it and shut it off with the key as well. One other thing, the voltage. You can see that I get a readout on the transmitter voltage, and I have a readout of the receiver voltage, so at any time I can tell how much voltage I have going to my receiver. So that's just a telemetry thing that's part of the receiver and transmitter telemetry.